Detroit Lions fans, Detroit Den 313 back with another one. Before we get going, you know what to do. I told myself actually that I was going to stop saying it for a couple of days because it's got a little bit too hot. But hit that subscribe button, man. You guys been killing it. We really appreciate it. Helps us tremendously. But today I think we got a little bit of a controversial episode. I will say, stick in, man. Hang in there. Some opinions are going to get dropped. The dogs, if you can hear them, are already trying to drop their opinion, and I'm sure you'll be dropping yours in the comments. But before we get going, I will say I love Brad Holmes. Steve, what are we talking today?
Controversy, trouble, turmoil. William, I don't know how this episode's going to go. All right, I'm really kind of just freestyle this one. All right, I don't have a lot of notes. I don't have a lot of data or stats to throw at people. Just raw opinion and emotion, I guess. So we're going to talk about Brad Holmes. We're going to talk about the 2024 draft class. Did we make some mistakes? Did we make some errors? Did we leave some stuff out there? Did we take some risks that didn't really pay off? After we did our draft show, we did a draft recap. I gave the draft for the 2024 class an A+. All right. At the end of the episode, I'm going to change that grade. Stick around to the end. I don't want to drop it right here, but I'll just say that I think I was wrong. Okay. But how do you feel about the 2024 draft class?
Honestly, man, as I look at it, I just had some questions. But that said, we did what we needed to do. That day when we talked about it, we needed to bolster our secondary. We did that when we got Terry and Arnold. Ennis Rakestraw. Now, did we need to go Ennis Rakestraw? Could we got another player in free agency? Those are things that I think we're going to end up talking about. Okay. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting for me. We made a trade to go get Giovanni Manu, Sione Vaki, and Mekhi Wingo. Those are all guys that Brad Holmes loves so much that he traded up to go get, man. So those are situations that kind of it's just interesting. And then we bring it in with Christian Mahogany. So again, I want to preface this whole thing with Brad Holmes is the best GM that the Detroit Lions has ever had. Ever had.
Not even close.
We're at the barbershop right now. We're in the locker room. We're at work. We're just having a conversation about everyone's fallible. Was there some meat left on the bones? Was there some potential mistakes made? Because there was some dudes that I remember grading, drooling over that were on the table. So that's where I'm going to start this thing, man. When I look at this draft, we traded up to, I believe it was pick 24. Right there it is, right there, actually, to pick 24 from pick 28 to go get Terry and Arnold. My issue with that was this. Steve, I remember texting you. My favorite corner in the draft, by far, hands down, is Nate Wiggins. He's an absolute dog. He can cover man-to-man. He's explosive. And I just told you I loved him. And then I said after that, it'd probably be Quinyon Mitchell. But we traded up. And Nate Wiggins was available. Now, everybody was talking about Kool-Aid. They were talking about they were saying that Terrion wasn't going to be there. And I'm not on this bandwagon of thinking that Terrion was a bust. Is he a bust? No. I think Terrion Arnold is going to be a starting corner in the NFL for quite some time. But I just so happen to think Nate Wiggins is special. And it's not the Pajama Olympics. It's not the 40. I was talking about him being special before he even ran a 40-yard dash. I'm a film guy. I'm not a statistics guy. Steve will hit you with some numbers, and the numbers matter. Let's not get that twisted. The numbers matter. But I'm a film guy. I want to sit back, watch the film, and then I want to go, not highlights, I want to go watch games. Watch you compete against the best of the best, and then watch you compete when you're getting blown out. Watch you compete when you're blowing another team out. Watch you compete in those tough moments, man, and see how I feel about you. And Nate Wiggins was somebody that I felt very, very highly on. I want to load in a Nate Wiggins play that I'll talk about it after I load it in. Right. So here's Nate Wiggins against the Cleveland Browns. And I know what you're thinking in the beginning. Hey, he just jumped a route, but it's deeper than that. If you watch him and you watch him right here, Nate Wiggins is in cover 2, right? His eyes are on the quarterback and he is baiting that quarterback to throw the football. That is not something that I've seen Terry. And I know we don't play a lot of zone, but that is not something that I've seen Terry and Arnold do at all this season, right? He's baiting him, You throw it, it's mine, and now I'm gonna take it to the crib, right? That is special, and that's what I'm talking about. And I'm not a Baltimore Ravens fan, but I hate to even say this on air. My 10-year-old is. He loves the Ravens. The Lions are my second favorite team. That's why I make him sleep outside sometimes. But even with that said, right, I don't watch all of the Ravens games. I catch a few because my son wants to watch them. And when I just happen to pop in, I see Nate Wiggins getting his hands on football, batting footballs down. I see him competing with the likes of Jamar Chase. I see him forcing fumbles on CeeDee Lamb, right? The dude is out there making plays, making impactful plays. So to me, it just makes me feel like Brad might have missed on this one. Now, is it a man, I completely missed. I'm blind. I'm an idiot. I'm a dummy. No, not at all. Not at all. But I do feel like Terry Arnold's going to be a good, solid cornerback in this NFL. But Nate Wiggins is going to be special. Steve, am I an idiot, or are you in the same spectrum as me?
Listen, misses happen all the time. Okay, all right. I don't want to shine a spotlight on Brad missing. I know that that's kind of the nature of the episode we're talking here, but I think what's unfair for Terrion Arnold is the success that Brad Holmes has had the last 3-4 seasons of the draft. Okay, we're talking the first round, second round guys that are Pro Bowlers already. Like, let's just name some of the guys that Brad Holmes has drafted in the last 2 or 3 seasons: Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams. Difference makers. Terrion Arnold just wasn't a difference maker. All right, I think it's a little unfair. I think he's going to be a good corner. I think he's going to be a corner in this league for a very long time. I think he's going to have a long career. I think Nate Wiggins is going to have a long career, and it might be better than Terrion Arnold's at the end when they're both retired. I don't know if we're not going to talk Hall of Fame or anything, but when both of these players are done, I do think Nate Wiggins will be the better of the two corners. I'll give you that. But I'm thinking just from our standpoint, Terrion Arnold, he's going up against a stack deck with what Brad Holmes has done recently. Just hit home run, home run, home run, home run. When he comes up and hits a double, everyone's just kind of like, oh man, it's not what we're used to. It's not as flashy. It's not as big of a playmaker, but I think Terrion Arnold's going to be fine. If we're talking about, let me bring back up that graphic there that we just shared about our recent draft class. Like, if we're just looking at this, if you really just dissect this list and you look at these names and say who really played football as a rookie, it's Terrion Arnold, Christian Mahogany at the end of the season. I know Wingo was in there. He got banged up. Vaki was mostly special teams, and Giovanni Manu looked good when he was squirting some water in Penei Sewell's mouth during timeouts. I'm just being honest. If we're going to talk about, I don't want to call Giovanni Manu a swing and a miss, but me personally, going into 2025, I'm done with project players. All right. I think we can get some guys out there that are difference makers, because the number one guy I wanted in this draft was Jared Verse. All right, I'll put that out there. He wasn't available. He wasn't in reach for us. It was never an option. My number 2 guy was Braden Fisk, who we had a shot at least once. And you talked about it in the beginning of the show, all those trades we did to move up for players that didn't help us, moving up for Sione Vaki, moving up for Giovanni Manu, moving up for who else we talked? Who's the third one? That's last year's. Savaki we moved up for, Manu we moved up for, and Wingo we moved up for. So we moved up for 3 players. I would have rather seen Brad move up in the second round and go get Braden Fisk. At the end of the season, when we didn't have pass rushers, I mean, me and Will had our phones ringing. They were trying to get us to come out there and put a pass rush. I was like, hey, well, listen, guys, I'm in my mid-30s. I'm a little out of the game. I had a couple beers. I don't know if you want me getting out there and put a pass rush on someone. We're talking liability and then some numbers when I get hurt, not if, but when I go down. I would have rather seen Brad Holmes been more aggressive with someone who was a known difference maker. One of the best. I mean, we talk about the Pajama Olympics. Braden Fisk went out there in last year's combine and dominated every category he ran. Now, what we do is we don't look at just that. We look at game film. You look at his game film, he dominated that as well. So the combine was just kind of a warm and fuzzy that you feel good about the film. Am I saying that right, Will? Because when they line up and they correlate with each other, that's a difference maker. All right. I would have rather seen Brad move up, get that, put Braden Fisk on our D line. I think that would have helped. So yeah, he's had some misses, and we're not here to knock Brad Holmes. We're not running him out of town. We're not saying fire him. We're not saying replace him. we're just kind of throwing some I think fair and warranted criticism his way. And if I ever met him, I'd shake his hand. I'd say, dude, you've done a phenomenal job. You've hit home
Oh,
run,
I know.
home run, home run. Let me buy you a beer. He's that kind of guy, but he's in the job. His role gets well, his job kind of warrants us. And I know we're just podcasters, but we got to talk about it. I think there's been a couple misses out there, and that's probably the biggest one for me recently was trading up for a Giovanni Manu who didn't even put pads on. I couldn't even tell you Giovanni Manu's jersey number off the top of my head if I'm being honest with you, because I never seen him wearing it. I would have rather traded up and been a little bit more aggressive and got a Braden Fisk.
I dig that, man. Um, I loved Braden Fisk. I didn't think that defensive tackle was something that we absolutely had to have. If I was trading up, man, there was a couple guys on my list. Edrin Cooper was the guy that I wanted if we traded up, and but he wasn't. I was okay with how things went down as far as that went because he came off of the board. But continuing on this same path
But
that we're
real
on.
quick, Cooper's a guy that we did pass on too. He was available to us in the first round. And again, that's another guy similar to the Braden Fisk pool where we could have made an aggressive move and got someone who was a little bit more of a difference maker.
Yeah, I agree, but it just made sense to me, like because it wasn't the same position. My problem with Nate Wiggins, right, and Terry and Arnold is they're the same position, and I thought that you kind of put something really into perspective, and I don't know if people caught it, so I'm going to repeat it. When the film matches the Pajama Olympics, that's when the ears should perk up. When I started talking about Nate Wiggins, again, no 40-yard dash. And then he went and ran a 4.2. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? So that's what I'm talking about. So I could see, hey man, I'm not gonna draft a linebacker right here. Been there, done that. We got guys, maybe we can get one later. I'm cool with that. We had to bolster our secondary. Made sense to me. Okay. I love Edrin Cooper, but we're gonna draft a corner right here. So we got Terry on. And I can't let Terrion off the hook. I know you're letting him off the hook a little bit and saying, listen, because Brad's hits home runs and this and another. No, Terrion Arnold stood in front of the city of Detroit and said, y'all just drafted a superstar. That's what he said. He didn't say, hey guys, I'm happy to be here. I'm thankful for the opportunity. He said, no, I mean, y'all got a dog. Y'all got a superstar. And he's still talking about being one of the best corners in the league. And I'm not giving up on Terrion Arnold. I'm not giving up on him by any means. I think that he is going to be a good corner. And if he can clean up the end of some of these plays and start getting his hands on footballs, then he can be great, man. But I just haven't seen it yet. And I didn't see a lot of that getting his hands on footballs in Alabama. The difference is this, man. If you look at Amik Roberson, you see him almost intercepting footballs or intercepting him. You see him punching footballs out. These are the things that I'm seeing on a Nate Wiggins. I know I put in one clip, but there's clip after clip after clip of him doing these things. These are the things that I need to see because it's not impossible. Other guys are doing it. Quinyon Mitchell, he's doing it. So that's my expectation. If we're trading up to go get a guy, that's what he should be doing. So that's my worry. But staying on that same path, like I said, the next pick was Ennis Rakestraw. Now, Ennis Rakestraw was somebody who was mocked to us in the first round. Even they were saying that we might, his skill set was so good, and I thought that he was a really good corner. I loved his intensity. I love the way that he played aggressive and he tried to break on footballs and make plays. I love how he came up in the run game. Like when we was looking at Mizzou and his film, I liked all of those things. My problem was, and I think we both talked about it, him not being on the field, right? Him not being on the field in college here and there, and then it panned out. People said, "Oh no, man, it's not what you think, man," and blah blah blah. Then we got to the Detroit Lions, and it was that exact situation. So we went back to back cornerback, um, to bolster our secondary. I'm assuming, right, making a weakness a strength. When there was another guy that we were drooling over. It was, to me, I told you, there was two linebackers that I absolutely loved in this draft. One's name was Edrin Cooper. The other one was Peyton Wilson. And Peyton Wilson was on the board when we drafted Ennis Rakestraw. The thought
We passed
of,
on him twice.
the thought of having Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, and Peyton Wilson out there all at the same time when we got our three linebacker sets out there. The thought of potentially on third and long situations, removing Jack Campbell and letting Alex Anzalone and Peyton Wilson fly around out there. The remembrance of running backs just doing whatever they wanted to us in the pass game, it's just, it makes me go back in time and wish that maybe we took a look at this guy. Speaking of running backs out of the backfield, I got a Peyton Wilson play. I'm assuming a lot of you have seen this play because this play is absolutely bananas. If you haven't seen it, you're probably not even going to understand it the first time. I'm probably going to have to play it 7 or 8 times before you get it. But it's nasty. Peyton Wilson back out of the backfield. You're going to see it. You're going to get an opportunity. Peyton Wilson. It looks like nothing until you realize he intercepts the football. Right. So he gets his hand in there and rips the football away at the last second. It keeps running back, guys. Don't worry about it. You're going to get a close up of it. But Peyton Wilson catches him late out of the backfield, gets his arm in there, and before they hit the ground, he rips the ball out and ends up intercepting it. So here's what I'm saying. Peyton Wilson was a guy who his film was absolutely phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. But we talked about, again, would his Pajama Olympics match that? And it did. And it did. He went and ran a 4.4. We are a Detroit Lions team that is known for having trouble with mobile quarterbacks. What do you need to combat that? Speed. Yeah, speed. And we just don't have speed. Jack Campbell, I think he ran a 4.6 or a 4.5 in the 40, but he got as lean as possible for his body size and skill set to be able to perform and be big and agile. That's not really what his speed is after he put 10, 15 more pounds back on his football speed. Alex Anzalone is fast. Yeah, Alex Anzalone is fast, but he's not a 4.4 guy. That speed is the NFL, whether the Detroit Lions are going to do it or not, the NFL has moved on from straight pocket passers for the most part, right? Most of these guys that you're going to play against on Sundays are mobile, right? And you're going to have to be able to run these guys down if they get outside of the pocket. That is one of the Detroit Lions' weaknesses. When we play mobile quarterbacks, we have trouble. You see what Josh Allen did when he came to town, and I ain't even going to talk about Jaden Daniels, right? It is, and then I watched the corpse of Geno Smith come to Ford Field and show out before. Like, you know what I mean? Like what are we talking about? We have to get faster, man. So this was another one that I looked at. We took thin and straight straw. Okay. I got it, and it was cool, and our secondary was going to be this and that, and I was pumped about it. But I said it then, and I still say it now. Man, Peyton Wilson, I wish we would have got our hands on him. Steve, Peyton Wilson, how you feel about him?
We passed on Peyton Wilson a couple times. I had to pull up his information to see exactly when he was picked. Round 3, pick 98, almost a 4th rounder. So we gave up our 3rd rounder for Carlton Davis. So again, we talk about our secondary was looking pretty good before we even went into the draft. We traded for Carlton Davis, we picked up Amik Robertson, and then we used 2 more picks on two corners. So is this a situation where maybe we could have drafted Terrion Arnold and then maybe took more of a gamble on a Peyton Wilson instead of an Ennis Rakestraw? Because when we were diving into Ennis Rakestraw, we liked his film, we liked his tape, we liked everything he did, but he was an injury concern. All right, and coming into the Detroit Lions, I can't really remember a game other than the Green Bay Packers, the first one, when it was the rain game. Someone went out. I can't remember who it was, and Rakestraw came in. Other than that, we didn't really see him other than special teams. So that's what I'm saying is, like, we passed on some opportunities to better our defense, which got shredded by the Washington Commanders because we didn't have enough speed. We couldn't generate good matchups. We couldn't put pressure on the quarterback. I think we missed an opportunity there as well. I'm sorry. I don't really love our past draft class. I'll call it Brad Holmes' worst. All right. And that's low hanging fruit. I know that's not a hot take or anything, but when I look at the expectations for the season, I just thought, man, we could have taken some really, really good calculated risks and put this defense in a better position, put this team in a better position than drafting guys that sit on the sidelines, drafting special teams players, drafting backup guards that are 3 or 4 year projects. I don't know, William. Looking at it now in hindsight and having 2020, like, I get it. It's easy to critique it when we're sitting where we're sitting, but I think I would have liked more aggression and risk taking in the draft to get. I'm all about putting pressure on the quarterback, making defenses. We pleaded it all year last season. Let's get this defense on par with our offense. Let's show up on Sundays and stop saying, man, the Detroit Lions win if the defense plays well. We played complimentary football at times, but the injury bug bit us hard. If we could have had a couple more pieces, some guys to come in and hold some water instead of drafting or picking up practice squad guys every other week, I think it would have made a huge difference, Will. So I love Dennis Rakestraw, but he had some injury concerns in college, and we didn't really see him play football hardly other than special teams this season. So I think that's another Brad Holmes miss.
Yeah, yep. That's same, man. Um, even that said, though, that said, when I look at these guys, is there some good things here? Absolutely. Christian Mahogany in the 6th round, a
Steal.
starter, a starting guard in the 6th round. That was awesome, man. Makai Wingo getting out there and getting some snaps early and doing some things. Uh, Definitely another one, 6th round guy getting out there and doing some things. The impact that Sione Vaki was making on special teams. Okay, I dig that. He's not a normal special teamer. He's one of those guys that I could see being uh next thing you know, he's a all pro special teamer, man. He's a guy who goes to a couple of Pro Bowls because of special teams, So those are things that I could see. But that 4th round Geo pick, I know he was an absolute freak athlete, everything, and then that's cool. Um, but trading up to get him, I mean, and it yet remains to be seen. Uh, that could be something that's another kind of Broderick Martin type deal. It's kind of boom or bust, man. It's one of those things to where, okay, this is a guy that's done some cool stuff. He's got a big body. He's super athletic. Can he figure it out? Okay. I'm cool with those, man. And I know and I know a lot of people are going to say in the comments, oh man, what you guys don't understand is our team is so good now that those guys can't get on the field. I'm gonna let you know that Peyton Wilson would have been on the field. I'm gonna let you know that, right? So it's not just about uh our team being so good. Is our team gotten progressively better every single season? I believe that 100%. I do. Right? Has he put us in a situation to where we have a phenomenal Super Bowl caliber roster? Absolutely, he has, man. So listen, we're splitting hairs here because when you produce excellence, excellence begins the expectation,
Yeah,
right?
we've been spoiled.
Yeah, like when it would be like saying, "Hey, man, I know Tom Brady won the Super Bowl last year, but man, I'm just cool if he just goes 9-7 this year. I would be cool with that." No, Brad Holmes hits home runs. Damn it, I want home runs every season now. Like I'm greedy, you know what I mean? So like this isn't us kicking Brad in the nuts. This is saying, Brad, just give us some more of that sauce, man. I want some more of that sauce, man. So Brad, I think I speak for me and Steve, man, when we say we love you here at Detroit Den 313. And I know we're giving you a hard time and you don't have 27 first-round draft picks because we're good now, all of the things, but let's step our game up in 2025. There's like 15 edge rushers I want. If you could get like 8 of them, I'd be cool.
You know my motto for 2025, William: trench warfare, nothing more, nothing less. That's what I'm D line, O line backups, but I'm really really heavy on D line. And while we're talking about, like, real quick, Nate Wiggins, Peyton Wilson, we never once said that they were going to come in here and steal jobs. We understand that these would have been role players. These would have been depth pieces. And my dog's going downstairs because she agrees with me too. These would have been players that come in with all these injuries and we don't lose a step. All right, we're plugging practice squad guys and tell them to go out there and compete on a 15-2 team with Super Bowl aspirations. Instead, I would have rather have taken risks in the draft instead of going out and having to sign players like Jamal Adams to come in and play a hybrid linebacker where I could have just plugged in a Peyton Wilson and been good to go. Braden Fisk, with all the injuries to our defensive line, maybe I plug him in at defensive end, defensive tackle. He gets after the quarterback a little bit better than some other guys we were plucking off practice squads. That's all we're saying. Brad Holmes had a couple misses. It's okay. So for 2025, I don't want any more gambles. I don't want any more projects. I want players that can at least be able to be in a position to at least rotate in on the defensive line, wide receiver, whatever we draft. I don't want a guy who's not even going to put pads on unless we're talking like 7th rounders. Those first 3 rounders, we got some defensive lineman depth in this draft class. It's massive. This is probably the strongest defensive line draft class that I can recall in like 10 years. Like, I'd have to go back and pull up a list for the last 10 draft classes, but I can't picture more defensive linemen in a draft than I've seen in 2025. So I want guys that can actually contribute to this team one way or another. We're not talking starters. We're talking, hey, if someone goes down, we plug him in, we're good to go. That's all I want. No more projects for me, Will.
I dig it.
Anything else tonight?
That's it, man. Let us know
Yeah.
how you feel. I know you will.
Yeah, I can foresee about 100 comments already that we're bitching and you guys are against Brad Holmes. And
Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
at the end of the day, I said I'd give my draft class grade for 2024. It was an A+ after draft day. I'm probably leaning like a C- now, just because too many gambles, too many people who didn't get on the field. It's no knock to the player. Maybe it's part of our depth and what we had, but our depth was tested. We could have had some other pieces that helped a little bit more, I think. So stick around, hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.